Captain Nari Kim stood at the big window of her spaceship, watching the red sun come up over the dead planet below. The planet was called Ketos Prime, and it looked like a huge ball of brown dirt with no trees or grass or anything alive on it. Her ship was called Harmony's Edge, and it was not very big, but it was fast and strong enough to carry 30 humans across the galaxy. Nari had short black hair and dark eyes that always looked like she was thinking about something important. She wore a blue uniform with silver stripes on the sleeves that showed she was the captain. Her crew had been traveling for 3 months, looking for special rocks and metals that were worth a lot of money back on Earth. The company that sent them said Ketos Prime might have what they needed. The bridge of the ship was small, but clean, with lots of buttons and screens everywhere. Nari could see her reflection in the dark window, and she looked tired. She had not slept well for days because something about this planet made her feel strange, like it was calling to her in a voice she could not hear but could feel in her bones. Behind her she heard footsteps and turned to see Taiho walking up to her station. Taiho was young with messy brown hair, and he was always excited about everything. He was the person who watched all the computer screens and listened to signals from space. His job was very important because he could tell if other ships were coming or if there was danger. Captain Nari, the readings from the planet are getting stronger, Taiho said, pointing at his screen. The energy down there is not like anything we have seen before. It keeps getting brighter and brighter, like something is waking up. Nari walked over to look at his screen and saw lines of green light dancing up and down. The pattern looked almost like a heartbeat, but much faster. She had never seen energy readings like this before, and it made her stomach feel tight with worry. What kind of energy is it? She asked. Katea shook his head. I do not know, Captain. It is not from any machine we know about, and it is not natural like lightning or heat. It is something else, something old. Just then another person walked onto the bridge. It was Hayok, who was Nari's best friend and second in command. He was tall with kind eyes and always made everyone feel safe when things got scary. He had been with Nari for 5 years, and she trusted him more than anyone else in the whole galaxy. Hayok looked at the screen and then at Nari. What do you want to do, Captain? We could leave and look for metals on another planet. Nari thought about this for a long time. She knew the safe thing to do was leave, but something inside her wanted to go down to the planet and find out what was making the energy. She had always been curious about things that other people were afraid of, and that is what made her a good captain. No, she said, we came here to do a job, and we are going to do it. Get the landing team ready. We are going down to look at whatever is making those ready. Shiok looked worried, but he nodded. Captain, are you sure this energy could be dangerous? We do not know what it is or what it might do to us. Nari put her hand on his shoulder. I am sure we will be careful. And if it looks too dangerous, we will come back to the ship right away. 1 hour later, Nari was putting on her spacesuit in the small room next to the landing bay. The suit was white and heavy with a clear helmet that let her breathe on planets that did not have good air. Hayok was putting on his suit too, along with 2 other crew members named Jisu and Doyonte. Landing shuttle was small and round like a metal egg with windows. It could carry 6 people and had engines that made it fly very fast through space and air. Nari sat in the pilot seat and started the engines while the others sat behind her and checked their equipment as they flew down toward the planet. Nari could see the ground getting closer. It was covered in red dirt and black rocks with deep cracks running everywhere, like someone had hit the planet with a giant hammer. There were no rivers or lakes or any sign that anything had ever lived there. The energy readings got stronger as they got closer to the ground. Taiho's voice came through the radio from the ship. Captain, I am seeing the energy source now. It is about 2 kilometers from where you are going to land. It looks like a big building, but it is not made by any people we know. Nari landed the shuttle on a flat piece of ground and turned off the engines. Outside the window, she could see the alien thing in the distance. It was huge and made of what looked like red crystal that sparkled in the sunlight. It was shaped like a pyramid, but with strange curves and angles that hurt to look at. When they got out of the shuttle, Nari felt the energy right away. It was like standing next to a big fire, but instead of heat it was something else, something that made her heart beat faster and her hands shake. The ground under their feet was hard and cracked, and every step made a crunching sound. They walked toward the crystal building, slowly checking their equipment every few steps. Hayok stayed close to Nari and kept looking around like he expected something bad to happen. Jisoo and Doyun followed behind them, carrying tools and cameras to record everything they found. As they got closer to the building, Nari could see that it was covered in symbols that looked like writing, but not like any language she had ever seen. The symbols seemed to move when she looked at them, directly changing shape and meaning like they were alive. Captain, look at this, Jisoo said, pointing at the ground around the building. There are more symbols. Here, carved into the rock, they make a big circle around the whole thing. Nari looked down and saw that Jisoo was right. The symbols were everywhere, forming patterns and shapes that went on and on like a huge message written in stone. She knelt down and touched one of the symbols with her gloved hand and felt a shock go through her arm. The building started to glow brighter and the symbols began to move faster. Hayok grabbed Nari's arm. Captain, we need to get away from here right now. This is not safe. But Nari could not move. She felt like the building was talking to her in a voice that came from inside her own head. It was telling her to come closer, to touch the crystal and learn its secrets. She took a step forward and then another. Suddenly, beams of red light shot out from the building straight at them. Hayok threw himself at Nari, trying to push her out of the way, but she was faster. She reached out her hand to block the light from hitting him and protect her best friend. The moment the red light touched her hand, everything changed. The light did not just hit her skin, it went inside her body, flowing through her blood. Like liquid fire, she screamed as pain shot through every part of her body, but she could not let go. The light was pulling her in and filling her with something that was not human. She could feel the hatred of an entire race of beings flowing into her blood. Their anger and rage and desire for revenge became part of her own thoughts. She saw flashes of their memories of a great war that happened long ago, of cities burning and people dying, of enemies that came from the stars and destroyed everything they loved. The pain was so bad that she fell to her knees, but still the light kept coming into her body, changing her from the inside out. Her eyes started to glow with the same red light, and she could feel her heart beating so fast it might explode. Hayok was screaming her name and trying to pull her away, but the light was too strong. Finally, after what felt like hours but was probably only seconds, the light stopped and Nari collapsed on the ground. When she opened her eyes, she felt different. The hatred was still there in her blood, but now it was mixed with her own feelings and thoughts. She could sense things she had never sensed before, like the fear in Hayok's heart and the danger coming from space far above. She looked up at the sky, and somehow she knew that the light had sent a signal across the galaxy telling their enemies that the ancient weapon had been found. The beings who had destroyed the race that made this building were coming, and they would not stop until everyone who had touched the light was dead. Nari tried to stand up, but her legs were shaking. Hayok helped her to her feet, and she could see the fear in his eyes. Captain, what happened to you? Your eyes, they are glowing. She looked at her hands and saw that they were also glowing with a faint red light. She could feel the power flowing through her body, making her stronger and faster than any human had ever been. But she could also feel the alien hatred trying to take control of her mind. We need to get back to the ship, she said, and her voice sounded different, darker and more dangerous. Something is coming, something that wants to kill us. As they ran back to the shuttle, Nari could feel the hostile ships getting closer through space. She had maybe an hour before they arrived, and when they did, her crew would be in more danger than they could imagine. The red light had changed her into something new, something that was both human and alien, and she did not know if she could control what she was becoming. Nari ran through the shuttle door with Hayok right behind her. Her whole body was shaking, and the red light in her eyes kept getting brighter and dimmer like a broken lamp. She could feel the alien hatred moving through her blood like tiny lightning bolts, and every heartbeat sent waves of anger through her mind. Get us back to the ship now, she told Hayok as she fell into the pilot seat. Her hands were glowing so bright that she could see them through her gloves, and when she touched the controls, sparks flew out. Thea started the engines, and the shuttle lifted off the ground fast. The planet got smaller below them, but Nari could still feel the crystal building calling to her like it wanted her to come back. She pressed her hands against her head, trying to stop the alien voices that were getting louder and louder. Captain, what is happening to you? Hayok asked as he flew the shuttle toward their ship. His voice was full of worry and fear. I do not know, she said. Something from that building is inside me now. I can feel their thoughts, their memories, their hate. It is so strong. Hayok, I do not know if I can control it. When they got back to the ship, Nari went straight to the medical room where Dr. Minji was waiting. Dr. Minji was a small woman with gray hair who had been a doctor for 30 years. She had seen many strange things in space, but nothing like this. Nari lay down on the medical bed, and Dr. Minji started checking her with different machines. The screens showed her heart beating very fast, and her blood was glowing red under the special lights. "This is impossible," Dr. Minji said, looking at the readings. "Your blood has been changed at the basic level. Something has mixed with your human cells and made them different." "What does that mean?" Nari asked. "It means you are not completely human anymore," Dr. Minji said quietly. "The energy has become part of you, and it is changing how your body works. You are stronger, faster, and your brain is working in new ways, but I do not know what else it might do." Just then, Taiho's voice came over the speaker system. "Captain, you need to get to the bridge right now. There are ships coming toward us, lots of them." Nari ran to the bridge with Hayok and Dr. Minji following her. When she got there, she saw Taiho pointing at the big screen. The screen showed dozens of black ships surrounding their small vessel. The ships were long and smooth like knives, and they had no windows or lights. A voice came through the radio speaking in perfect human language, but with a cold tone that had no emotion. "This is Admiral Kane of the Hegemony Fleet. You have been infected with Vorthek energy and must surrender immediately." Nari looked at the screen, and somehow she knew exactly what these beings looked like. They were tall and pale with silver eyes, and they thought they were better than everyone else in the galaxy. She could feel their thoughts pressing against her mind, trying to make her afraid. "What do you want?" she asked into the radio. "The being who was infected must come with us for purification," Admiral Kane said. "Your ship will be destroyed and your crew will be eliminated to prevent the spread of the hate plague." Nari felt the alien hatred rise up in her chest like fire. The Vorthak memory showed her what purification meant. It meant death, but not a quick death. It meant being torn apart slowly while the Hegemony studied every piece of her body. "Never," she said, her voice getting darker. "Then you will all die," Admiral Kane said. The Hegemony weapons began to charge up with bright blue light. Nari closed her eyes and let the alien energy flow through her body. She could feel the power of an entire dead civilization flowing in her blood, their knowledge, their skills, their burning desire for revenge against the beings who had destroyed them. When she opened her eyes, they were glowing bright red. She reached out with her mind toward the biggest Hegemony ship and found its power source. Deep inside the ship was a reactor that made energy for all their weapons. She focused on it and twisted it with her thoughts. The big ship suddenly went dark and started spinning out of control. Sparks flew from its engines, and it crashed into another ship. The other Hegemony ships stopped charging their weapons and began backing away, but using that much power made Nari fall to her knees. Blood came out of her nose and her vision got blurry. The alien energy was strong, but her human body was not made to handle that much power. Admiral Kane's voice came through the radio again with more anger than before. "You have made a terrible mistake, human. The Hegemony will not be stopped by one infected creature." During the confusion of the battle, Nari saw smaller ships leaving the Hegemony fleet and flying toward her ship. She tried to use her power to stop them, but she was too weak. The small ships attached to her ship, and she could hear metal being cut. Hayok grabbed her arm. "Captain, they are boarding us. We need to get you to a safe place." But it was too late. Tall, pale beings in silver armor came through the ship's walls carrying weapons that shot blue light. Nari tried to fight them, but the alien energy was not working right. Her power kept cutting in and out like a broken machine. The Hegemony soldiers surrounded her crew and pointed their weapons at them. Admiral Kane walked onto the bridge wearing a long black coat. His silver eyes looked at Nari with no emotion at all, like she was just a thing instead of a person. "You will come with us now," he said, "or we will kill your friends one by one, starting with him." He pointed at Hayok, and two soldiers grabbed him. Hayok tried to fight, but the soldiers were much stronger. They put metal bands around his wrist that made him unable to move. Nari felt the alien hatred explode in her mind. The Vorthek had loved their friends and family, just like humans did, and seeing someone she cared about being hurt made the alien energy burn even hotter. "Let him go," she said, standing up. Her eyes were glowing so bright now that everyone had to look away. "Admiral Kane smiled, but it was not a happy smile. If you agree to come with us for purification, we will let your crew live. They will be taken to a prison planet, but they will not be killed. Nari looked at Hayok and saw the fear in his eyes, but also something else. He was trying to tell her something with his look. She realized he wanted her to say yes so that the crew would be safe, even if it meant she would die a will. Come with you, she said, but only if you promise my crew will not be harmed. Admiral Kane nodded. We are not monsters. We only do what is necessary to protect the galaxy from the hate plague. Your crew will live, but you must come now as the hegemony. Soldiers put the metal bands on Nari's wrists. She felt the alien energy being blocked. The bands were made to stop any kind of power from working. She was just a normal human again, weak and afraid. They took her to one of their ships and put her in a small room with no windows. The walls were white and smooth with no door handle on the inside. She sat on the hard bed and tried not to cry. Through the wall she could hear Hayok shouting her name and trying to break free from the soldiers. The sound made her heart hurt worse than the alien energy ever had. She had failed to protect him, and now he was going to suffer because of her choices. Hours passed and the ship started moving. She could feel it traveling through space, getting farther and farther away from her crew. Admiral Kane came to see her through a window in the door. You are wondering why we do this, he said. Why we hunt down every trace of Vorthic energy? Because you are afraid, she said. We are not afraid, we are responsible. Admiral Kane said the Vorthak were a disease that would have destroyed everything good in the galaxy. They believed that chaos and strong emotions were more important than order and peace. That does not sound like a disease to me, Nari said. You will understand when the purification begins, Admiral Kane said. Soon the hate will be gone from your blood and you will see things clearly. But first you must watch as we question your friend. He has information about human psychology that we need. Nari jumped up and pressed her face against the window. You said you would not hurt him. We said we would not kill him, Admiral Kane said. There is a difference. The ship continued through space, carrying Nari toward a fate worse than death, while somewhere behind them, Hayok was being taken to a place where the hegemony would try to break his mind to learn how to control other humans. Nari sat back down on the bed and felt the alien hatred burning in her blood, even through the metal bands. The Vorthak voices whispered to her about revenge and justice and the power to rewrite reality itself. She closed her eyes and made a promise to herself and to the dead civilization whose anger flowed in her veins. She would find a way to save Hayok and stop the hegemony, even if it meant becoming something that was no longer human. The red light in her eyes grew brighter as she began to plan. 3 days passed on the hegemony ship, and Nari learned to hate the sound of their footsteps. Every few hours soldiers would come to check on her, and every time she hoped they would tell her that Hayok was safe, but they never said anything about him, and the not knowing made her feel sick. The metal bands on her wrists were getting tighter and they made her skin hurt where they touched her, but worse than the pain was the way they blocked the alien energy. She could feel the Vorthic power trying to break free like a caged animal, but the bands were too strong. On the 4th day, Admiral Kane came to her room again, but this time he looked different. His silver eyes had dark circles under them, and his pale skin was even whiter than before. Your friend is very stubborn, he said. He will not tell us what we want to know about human emotions. What are you doing to him? Nari asked, standing up so fast that her head hit the low ceiling. We are trying to understand how humans can resist our mental conditioning, Admiral Kane said. Most species break after a few hours, but your friend has been fighting us for days. Nari felt the alien hatred rise up in her chest, so strong that it made her hands shake. The Vorthic memory showed her what the hegemony called questioning. It was torture designed to break a person's mind slowly until they would say anything to make the pain stop. You are monsters, she said. We are scientists, Admiral Kane said. We study other species to understand how to help them. We can make humans peaceful and happy by removing the emotions that cause war and suffering. That is not help, that is slavery, Nari said. Admiral Kane looked at her with his cold silver eyes. The Vorthak thought the same thing. That is why they had to be destroyed. They would rather fight and die than accept the peace we offered. The ship suddenly shook and red lights started flashing. Admiral Kane pressed his hand against his ear, listening to voices that Nari could not hear. His face changed from calm to worried to angry. What is happening? Nari asked. Your species is more troublesome than we thought, he said. Other human ships have been attacking our patrol fleets. They are using weapons we have never seen before. Nari smiled. For the first time in days, humans do not give up easily, she said. Admiral Kane left without saying anything else, and Nari was alone again. But now she had hope. Other humans were fighting back against the hegemony. Maybe they could save Hayok before. It was too late. She sat on her bed and closed her eyes, trying to feel the alien energy through the metal bands. It was still there, burning in her blood like a hidden fire. The Vorthok voices whispered to her about patience and planning and waiting for the right moment to strike. 2 more days passed, and the ship finally stopped moving. Nari could hear lots of activity outside her room, with soldiers running back and forth and machines making loud noises through the small window she could see. A huge space station shaped like a crystal flower. Welcome to Nexus Prime, Admiral Kane said through the door speaker. This is where your purification will take place. They came for her an hour later, putting more metal bands on her arms and legs, until she could barely move. 4 soldiers led her through corridors that were white and clean and empty of any decoration or color. The walls curved in strange ways that made her eyes hurt to look at. They passed through rooms full of beings from different planets, all wearing gray clothes and standing very still. Their eyes were empty, and they did not look at Nari or each other as she walked by. What happened to them? She asked. They have been purified, Admiral Kane said. They are free from the chaos of emotion and the burden of individual thought. They are happy now. They look dead, Nari said. They are at peace, Admiral Kane said. Soon you will understand. The purification chamber was a round room with a chair in the center, surrounded by machines that hummed and sparked with blue electricity. The chair had metal restraints and wires that would go into her head. Before we begin, Admiral Kane said, I want you to see something. A screen on the wall showed another room where Hayok was strapped to a table with wires attached to his head. His eyes were closed and his face was pale, but Nari could see he was still breathing. He is alive, she said with relief. For now, Admiral Kane said, but the questioning process is damaging his mind. Each session makes him weaker. If you do not cooperate, he will not survive much longer. Nari looked at the purification chair and then at the screen showing Hayok. She knew that if she sat in that chair, she would die, but if she did not cooperate, Hayok would die. Instead, I will do it, she said, but only if you let me see him first. Admiral Kane thought about this for a moment, then nodded. 5 minutes. They took her to Hayok's room and removed some of the metal bands so she could touch his hand. His skin was cold, and he did not open his eyes at first. When he finally looked at her, his eyes were full of pain, but also love. Nari, he whispered, I knew you would come. I am sorry, she said, tears running down her face. This is all my fault. No, he said, squeezing her hand with the little strength he had left. You were trying to protect everyone. That is what good captains do. The alien energy in her blood suddenly got stronger, like it was responding to her emotions. She could feel the Vorthok power trying to break through the metal bands, and for a moment her eyes glowed red. Hayok saw the light and smiled. You are not just human anymore, are you? I do not know what I am, she said. You are hope, he said. You are the thing that can change everything the hegemony is afraid of emotions, because emotions give people power to fight back. Time is up, Admiral Kane said. The soldiers pulled Nari away from Hayok and back to the purification chamber. As they strapped her into the chair, Nari closed her eyes and let the alien energy flow through her body. The metal bands were strong, but they were not perfect. She could feel tiny cracks where the Vorthok power was leaking through. The purification machine started up and pain shot through her head like lightning, but instead of fighting it, she let the machine pull at her thoughts while she pushed back with the alien energy. The hegemony had made a mistake. They thought the Vorthok energy was just hatred, but it was more than that. It was the power to change reality itself, to make things different than they were supposed to be. Admiral Kane watched the monitors showing her brain activity and frowned. Something is wrong, he said. The purification is not working. That is because you do not understand what you are trying to destroy, Nari said, opening her eyes. The red light was so bright now that it filled the whole room. The Vorthok were not just angry, they were creative. They could imagine new possibilities and make them real. That is why you had to destroy them, because they threatened your perfect order. The metal bands on her wrists began to crack and blue sparks flew from the purification machine. The alien energy was breaking free, and it was stronger than ever before. Admiral Kane stepped back in. Fear impossible, he said. The bands are made to contain any form of energy. Not this kind, Nari said, standing up as the restraints broke apart. You never understood what the Vorthak really were. They were not a disease, they were evolution itself. The room filled with red light as Nari's power exploded outward. The purification machine melted, and the walls began to crack. Admiral Kane and his soldiers ran for the door, but it was too late. Nari reached out with her mind and found Hayok in his room. She broke the machines that were hurting him and melted the restraints that held him down. Through their connection, she gave him some of her strength so he could stand up. "I am coming," she told him with her thoughts. "Just hold on a little longer." She walked through the space station like a force of nature, melting doors and destroying any machine that tried to stop her. The hegemony soldiers shot at her with their blue energy weapons, but the alien power turned their shots into harmless light. When she found Hayok, he was waiting for her in the hallway, holding onto the wall to stay standing. His eyes were bright again, and he was smiling. "You did it," he said. "Not yet," she said. "We still have to get out of here, and there are a lot of angry hegemony ships waiting for us." But as they walked toward the escape pods, Nari felt something new in her mind. The alien energy was showing her things that had not happened yet, possible futures where she and Hayok lived and others where they died. She realized that the Vorthic power was not just about fighting, it was about seeing all the different ways things could be and choosing which future to make real. The hunt across the stars was just beginning. Nari and Hayok ran through the burning corridors of Nexus Prime as alarms screamed all around them. The space station was huge, like a city made of crystal and metal, and everywhere they looked there were hegemony soldiers trying to stop them. Yek was still weak from the torture, but he could walk, and that was enough. The alien energy in Nari's blood was making her stronger and faster than any human had ever been. She could see through walls and sense where their enemies were hiding. "This way," she said, pulling him down a corridor that led toward the docking bays, where the escape pods are stored behind them. They could hear Admiral Kane shouting orders to his soldiers: "Seal all the exits. Do not let them escape. The infected one must be destroyed before the hate plague spreads." They came to a big door that was locked with electronic systems that needed special codes to open. Nari put her hand on the door and let the red energy flow through her fingers. The lock melted like ice in a fire, and the door opened. Inside was a room full of small ships that the hegemony used to travel between planets. The ships were white and smooth with no weapons, but they were fast enough to escape the space station. Yek sat down in the pilot seat of one ship while Nari checked the controls. Everything was written in the hegemony language, but somehow she could understand it. The alien energy was translating the words in her mind. "Can you fly this thing?" Hayok asked. "I think so," she said, but her voice sounded strange even to herself. Every time she used the Vorthic power, she felt more alien thoughts mixing with her human ones. The ship lifted off the floor and flew toward the exit, but suddenly the big doors started to close. If they did not get out soon, they would be trapped forever. Nari closed her eyes and pushed against the doors with her mind. The metal doors stopped closing and began to bend backward with a sound like thunder. The ship flew through the opening just as the doors snapped shut behind them. In space outside the station, hundreds of hegemony ships were waiting for them. Their weapons were already charging up with blue light, ready to destroy anything that came out of the station. Nari felt the alien energy show her all the possible futures. Most of them ended with her and Hayok dying in the next few minutes, but there was one path where they might survive. "Hold on," she told Hayok. "This is going to hurt." She reached out with her mind toward the nearest hegemony ship and found the part of its computer that controlled navigation. Instead of destroying it, she changed it, making it think that all the other ships were enemies. The ship began firing at its own fleet, causing chaos and confusion. The other ships started shooting back, not knowing what was happening. Some of them hit the space station and explosions bloomed like flowers of fire, but using that much power made Nari scream in pain. Blood came out of her nose and ears, and her vision went dark for a moment. She could feel her human mind fighting against the alien thoughts that were trying to take over Nari. "Are you okay?" Hayok asked, reaching over to touch her face. "I do not know," she said honestly. "Every time I use this power, I lose a little bit of myself. I can feel the Vorthic memories trying to replace my own." There small ship flew through the battle toward the edge of the solar system, but they were not safe yet. More hegemony ships were coming from other directions, and Admiral Kane was probably calling for backup. "We need to find somewhere to hide," Hayok said. "There is nowhere to hide from the hegemony," Nari said. They control most of the galaxy, but the alien energy is showing me something else. There are other species that have been fighting them in secret. What do you mean? She closed her eyes and let the Vorthak memories flow through her mind. She saw images of different planets where beings lived in underground cities, hiding from the hegemony ships that looked like asteroids but were really warships, rebels who had been fighting for freedom for hundreds of years. The hegemony tells everyone that they bring peace and order, she said. But they really bring slavery. They take away everything that makes a person who they are and replace it with empty obedience. The ship's radio crackled to life and Admiral Kane's voice filled the cabin. You cannot run forever, infected one. Eventually you will have to face the truth about what you have become. What truth? Nari asked. You are no longer human, he said. You are becoming something dangerous, something that will destroy everything you claim to love. The Vorthak thought they were fighting for freedom, but they were really fighting for chaos. That is not true, Nari said. Then prove it. Admiral Kane said. Look at what your power has already done to you. Can you still feel love, or has it been replaced by hate? Nari looked at Hayek and felt her heart jump in her chest. She did love him, she had always loved him, but she could also feel the alien hatred burning in her blood like acid. Vorthak energy was not just power, it was the dying wish of an entire civilization. They had poured their final thoughts into the crystal weapon, hoping that someday someone would find it and use it to get revenge on their enemies. But revenge was not the same as justice, and hate was not the same as love. If she let the alien energy take over completely, she would become exactly what the hegemony said. She was a force of destruction that would hurt everyone she cared about. I will not let that happen, she said. You may not have a choice, Admiral Kane said. The hate plague grows stronger every day. Soon you will lose control, and then we will have to destroy you. And everyone around Youth Radio went quiet, and Nari felt more alone than ever before. The alien energy whispered to her about the power to remake the galaxy, to tear down the hegemony and free all the enslaved species. But it also showed her what she would become if she used that power. She would turn into something that was not human anymore, a being of pure energy and rage that could reshape matter with its thoughts, but could not feel love or friendship or any of the things that made life worth living. Yuk must have seen the fear in her eyes, because he reached over and took her hand. Whatever happens, he said, I will stay with you. Even if you change into something else, I will still be here. His words made her feel better, but they also made her more afraid. If she lost control of the alien energy, she might hurt him without meaning to. The Vorthak power was like a fire that could warm you or burn you depending on how you used it. Their ship reached the edge of the solar system and jumped into hyperspace. The stars turned into lines of light as they traveled faster than the speed of light toward a distant planet that the alien memory said was safe. But Nari knew that nowhere would be safe for long. The hegemony had resources and technology that she could barely imagine. They would keep hunting her across the galaxy until either she was dead or they were the only way to end. This was to use the full power of the Vorthak energy to destroy the hegemony completely, but doing that would mean giving up her humanity forever. She looked at Hayek sleeping in the pilot seat and felt tears running down her face. He had already suffered so much because of her choices. How could she ask him to watch her turn into a monster? The alien voices whispered in her mind about duty and sacrifice and the greater good. They told her that the needs of the many were more important than the needs of the few, but they were wrong. Love was not a weakness. It was the strongest force in the universe. It was what made people fight for each other and protect each other and choose to be better than they were. If she was going to use the Vorthak power to change the galaxy, she would have to find a way to do it without losing the part of herself that could love. The ship flew through hyperspace toward an uncertain future, while behind them the hegemony gathered its forces for a final hunt. Their ship came out of hyperspace near a planet that looked like it was made of dark green glass. The planet had no name in any human language, but the Vorthak memories called it Haven. It was where the last free beings in the galaxy came to hide. From the hegemony, Hayek was awake now and looking at the strange world through the window. Are you sure this place is safe? He asked. Nothing is safe anymore, Nari said. But the people here have been fighting the hegemony for a long time. They might be able to help you. As they flew toward the planet, Nari could see ships hidden in the shadows between the moons. Some looked like rocks or pieces of metal. but her enhanced vision could see the engines and weapons hidden inside. A voice came through their radio, speaking in a language that sounded like music. Welcome, travelers. The song of your hearts tells us you are friends. The voice belonged to a species called the Keth, who could sense emotions from great distances they had been hiding from the hegemony for 300 years and had become masters of concealment. Their ship landed in a city that was built inside a mountain. The buildings were carved from stone and lit by crystals that glowed with soft light. Beings from dozens of different worlds walked through the streets, but they all moved quietly, like they were afraid of being heard. A Keth came to meet them at the landing pad. She was tall and thin, with skin that changed color depending on her mood and large eyes that seemed to see everything. I am Melody, she said in the musical language that somehow Nari could understand. Your pain sings very loudly. We felt it from across the solar system. The hegemony is hunting us. Nari said they want to destroy me because I have been infected with Vorthic energy. Melody's skin turned bright red with excitement. You carry the fire of the ancient ones. We thought it was lost forever. She led them through the city to a large cave where hundreds of beings were gathered. They were all different species, but they had one thing in common. They all hated the hegemony and wanted to see it destroyed. An old being with 4 arms and blue skin stood up when he saw Nari. His name was Elder Vox, and he had been fighting the hegemony since before humans had learned to fly. We have been waiting for someone like you, he said in a voice like grinding stone. The hegemony has grown too strong for us to fight alone, but with the Vorthak power you might be able to change everything. What do you want me to do? Nari asked. Help us wake up the galaxy, Elder Vox said. The hegemony keeps billions of beings in slavery by making them forget who they used to be. But your power could break their control. Nari felt the alien energy stirring in her blood. The Vorthic memories showed her how to use the power to reach across space and touch the minds of enslaved beings. She could free them all, but it would require more energy than she had ever used before. It might kill me, she said, or it might make you something more than human. Elder Vox said the Vorthak were not destroyed, they were transformed into pure energy. If you use their power fully, you might become like them. Yek stepped forward. No, he said firmly, I will not let you sacrifice yourself. There has to be another way. But even as he spoke, they could hear the sound of ships approaching. The hegemony had found them and was sending a massive fleet to destroy. Even Admiral King's voice came through every speaker in the city. You cannot hide forever, infected one. Surrender now, and we will make your death quick. The beings in the cave began to panic. Some ran for their ships while others grabbed weapons, but Nari knew that conventional weapons would not stop the hegemony fleet. She closed her eyes and reached out with her mind. Feeling the alien power flowing through her like a river of fire, she could sense every ship in the hegemony fleet and every mind that controlled them. There is another way, she said, opening her eyes. The Vorthic energy is not just about destruction, it is about transformation. I can change the hegemony soldiers instead of killing them. What do you mean? Melody asked. The hegemony removes emotions from people to control them, Nari said, but I can give emotions back. I can make them remember what it feels like to be free. She walked to the center of the cave and sat down cross-legged on the stone floor. The alien energy began to glow brighter around her, making her hair float in the air like she was underwater. Hike knelt beside her. This is dangerous, Nari. What if you lose yourself in the power? Then you have to bring me back, she said, taking his hand. I need you to anchor me to my humanity. No matter what happens, do not let go. The first hegemony ships entered the planet's atmosphere and began firing at the mountain. The cave shook with each explosion and rocks fell from the ceiling. Nari reached out with her mind toward the attacking ships. She could feel the cold, empty thoughts of the hegemony soldiers who had been trained to feel nothing but duty and obedience. Carefully, she began to touch their minds with the alien energy. But instead of filling them with Vorthak hatred, she filled them with human love. She showed them memories of friendship and family and all the things that made life worth living. The effect was immediate. The hegemony soldiers began to remember who they had been before the conditioning. They remembered their names, their homes, their dreams, everything the hegemony had taken away from them. One by one, the attacking ships stopped firing. Their pilots were crying for the first time in years as they remembered what it felt like to be alive. Admiral Kane's voice came through the radio, full of panic and fear. What are "You doing to my soldiers? I am setting them free," Nari said, but her voice was different now, deeper and more powerful. "I'm giving them back their souls." The process was working, but it was taking everything she had. The alien energy was burning through her human body like acid, and she could feel herself changing on a fundamental level. Her skin began to glow with red light, and her hair turned white. Her eyes became like stars, and when she spoke, her voice echoed with the voices of all the Vorthak who had died. More and more hegemony ships stopped attacking as their crews broke free from mental conditioning. Across the galaxy, other enslaved beings began to wake up as the energy spread from mind to mind. The transformation was killing her human body. She could feel her heart slowing down and her breathing becoming shallow. Yok squeezed her hand harder. "Come back to me," he said. "Do not let the power take you away." His love was like a rope pulling her back from the edge of becoming pure energy. She focused on his voice and his touch and the way he made her feel safe. The alien energy wanted to consume her completely, to make her into a god who could reshape the galaxy with her thoughts. But she chose to remain human, even if it meant being weaker. Slowly, the glow around her began to fade, and she opened her eyes. They were still human eyes, full of love and hope and determination. "I am still me," she said, smiling. At Hayek, Admiral Kane appeared on the cave's communication screen. His silver eyes were wide with fear and confusion. "My entire fleet has been compromised," he said. "How did you do this?" "I did not destroy your soldiers, I freed them," Nari said. "Now they can choose for themselves whether to serve the hegemony or fight for freedom. You have doomed the galaxy to chaos," Admiral Kane said. "Without order there will be war and suffering." "There was always war and suffering," Nari said. "The difference is that now people can choose to fight for something they believe in instead of being forced to fight for something they do not understand." The screen went dark and Admiral Kane's ship retreated along with the few vessels that still had loyal crews, but the damage was done. The hegemony's power was broken, and across the galaxy billions of beings were remembering what freedom felt like. Nari stood up on shaking legs and looked around the cave. The rebels were cheering and hugging each other, but she felt strangely empty. "You did it," Hayek said, putting his arms around her. "You changed everything." "Yes," she said, "but at what cost?" She could feel that the alien energy was still inside her, but it was different now. It was not just Vorthak hatred anymore. It was something new, created by the combination of alien power and human love. The galaxy would never be the same, and neither would she. But maybe that was not such a bad thing. Change was the only constant in the universe, and sometimes you had to break things before you could build them better. The merger of human love with Vorthak hatred creates something unprecedented in the galaxy's history. Instead of becoming a force of pure destruction, Nari becomes a catalyst for transformation. She doesn't destroy the hegemony, she changes it, forcing the All-Trans to confront the emotions they have suppressed for millennia. The rigid order of their empire begins to crumble as individual creativity and passion awaken across their worlds. Admiral Kane, exposed to the full force of this transformation, experiences emotions for the first time in his life. The revelation breaks him, but it also liberates him. He begins to understand why the hegemony's order was ultimately hollow, and why the Vorthak fought so desperately to preserve their way of life. In a moment of redemption, he helps Nari stabilize the quantum fluctuations that threaten to tear the galaxy apart. Hayek's sacrifice has not been in vain. His love, now part of the Vorthak energy matrix, continues to exist as a guiding force. Nari can feel his presence in every use of her power, and it keeps her grounded in her humanity even as she transcends normal physical existence. She has become something new, neither fully human nor fully Vorthak, but a bridge between different forms of consciousness. In the aftermath of the transformation, the galaxy begins to heal. The oppressed species are free to develop their own cultures and technologies, while the former hegemony worlds learn to embrace the emotions they had suppressed. Nari becomes a guardian of this new order, using her abilities to prevent any single species from dominating the others while encouraging the growth of creativity and individuality. The story ends with Nari standing on the bridge of a new kind of ship, one that exists partially in normal space and partially in the quantum realm where consciousness shapes reality. She is no longer the human captain who first touched the Vorthak artifact, but she has not lost her essential self. Through love and sacrifice, she has found a way to honor both her human origins and her transformed nature. In the final scene, she reaches out across the dimensions of space and time, feeling Hyok's presence in the quantum foam that underlies reality. Death has not separated them, it has simply changed the nature of their connection. She has rewritten the very structure of existence to ensure that love can transcend any barrier, even the gulf between life and death. The hate that once poisoned her blood has been transformed into something beautiful, a force that brings disparate beings together rather than driving them apart. The galaxy now has a new kind of peace, one built not on the suppression of emotion, but on the celebration of diversity and the power of individual will to shape destiny. And at the heart of it all, the love between two humans continues to burn like a star, proving that some bonds are strong enough to survive even the transformation of reality itself.